You do not do any more black shoe, in which I have lived like a foot for 30 years, poor and white, barely daring to breathe or chew. Daddy, I have had to kill you. You died before I had time. Marble heavy, a bag full of God, ghastly statue with one gray toe, big as a Frisco seal. And a head in the freakish Atlantic where it pours bean green over blue and the waters of beautiful Nauset. I used to pray to recover you. Do. In the German tongue and the Polish town, scraped flat by the roller of wars, but the name of the town is common, my Polish friend. Says there are a dozen or two, so I never could tell where you put your foot, your root, I could never talk to you. The tongue stuck in my jaw. It's stuck in a barbed wire snare. Ick, 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 ick. I could hardly speak. I thought every German was you, in the language obscene. An engine, chuffing me off like a Jew to the chow, Auschwitz, Belsen. I began to talk like a Jew. I think I may well be a Jew. The snows of the Tyrol, the clear beer of Vienna, are not very pure or true. With my gypsy ancestress and my weird luck and my Tarok pack, I may be a bit of a Jew. I have always been scared of you with your left wave, your gobbly dago, and your neat mustache and your Aryan eye, bright blue. Pangerman, oh you. Not God, but a swastika, so black no sky could squeak through. Every woman adores a fascist. The boot in the face, sheep the brute heart of a brute like you. You stand at the blackboard, Daddy, in the picture I have of you, a cleft in your chin instead of your foot, but no less a devil for that. No, not any less the black man who bit my pretty red heart in two. I was 10 when they buried you. At 25, I tried to die and get back to you. I thought even the bones would do. But they pulled me out of the sack and they stuck me together with glue. And then I knew what to do. I made a model of you, a man in black with a Mein Kampf look and a look of the rack and the screw. And I said, I do. So Daddy, I'm finally through. The black telephone's off at the root. The voices just can't warm through. If I've killed one man, I've killed two. The vampire who said he was you and drank my blood for a year, 7 years, if you want to know. Daddy, you can lie back now. There's a stake in your fat black heart, and the villagers never liked you. They are dancing and stamping on you. They always knew it was you. Daddy, you bastard, I'm through. Okay, so now we're going to be analyzing it using the Ciardi approach, and I have this right here. So we're going to start off with the first little section when it says, what does the poem say? So, who is speaking? The speaker is the daughter of, said daddy, and the narrator, which is Sylvia Plath, and you can tell that it's her because she speaks in, first person, and she says, Daddy, I have had to kill you, which just shows that it's her. And to whom or to what, and she's speaking to her dad, and what he stood for, and the things that he did in his life before he died, and how it affected her. What is the situation? The situation is sort of like her dad's passing, and examines the narrator's complicated relationship with her father, and the progression in which her emotions towards her father and his actions progress, which is also the answer to this one. And you can find that throughout these sections. Is there a meaning beyond the actual situation or the exact words of the speaker? I said the meaning was how one can hate someone yet be completely fixated on them, that it becomes unhealthy, which is prominent definitely in the real world too. But you can tell throughout here, and actually throughout the whole story, how she's really fixated on her dad's life and how it affected her. Okay, so now we're gonna move on to this portion, which is, it says, how does the poem say? What is it trying to say and how does it come across? And that's talking about tone, images, figurative devices. So the first bullet point says, what mental pictures does the poem create? And right here we have it labeled. It talks about Germany, World War II, Poland, Hitler, and the destruction of the land and how that affects her emotionally and physically. What do they mean? It kind of just talks about how everywhere he goes, it creates destruction and reminds her of hateful things. So yeah, it talks about how he is gray and how he hates to be and how she hates to think of him at all times because of how the bad man that he was. And he reminds her of a vampire and Hitler and a fascist. So, which is right here, vampire, fascist up here. And okay, next, how do they relate to or extend the substance and theme? It extends the simple themes of death and history and myth and ambivalence. as you know, like the dad died throughout the story, which is kind of like the death of her father is what creates the theme for this poem. And it's kind of her just like contemplating her different emotions she has toward that subject, that sensitive subject, and what it brings to her. What is the attitude of the speaker toward the subject, and how can the reader reach this conclusion? The attitude kind of changes from the beginning to the end, because at the beginning she kind of feels like oppressed, yet she wants to get back to her father. And she, right here, she even says, I was 10 when they buried you, and at 25 I tried to die and get back to you. So that just shows how she's like really fixated on it and how she wants to be with him. But then about like halfway through it changes back, or not halfway through, towards the end it changes back and talks about how nobody ever liked him and how everyone knew how bad he was and how she's finally done and she needs to live her own life. Yeah, she's still fixated on him. And I reached that conclusion from, like I said, from about here to here. And this is also ironic because she's wishing for a death that had already occurred, and then she finally gets over it down here at the end. But what is the general atmosphere or like mood of the poem? The mood is sort of dark and surreal and full of hatred, and that kind of starts up here and like is consistent throughout the whole poem, because you can just tell by like the words, like diction, like black, let's see, died, kill, marble heavy, ghastly statue, gray. Like all those words help support the mood of like dark and like hatred that she's like, the feelings and emotions she has towards the subject. So let's see, the next one is, does the poem imply or symbolize something not stated? I mean, I don't really think it symbolizes anything that's like not stated. It kind of is just straight up about what it's trying to say. There's no like deeper meaning behind it. She kind of just like switches and realizes that like she doesn't want to be her dad. She doesn't want to follow in her dad's footsteps. This like, she finally realizes that nobody liked him, and she finally is moving on. So, and what is the form of the poem? And stanza, rhyme scheme, and or meter. They're each 5-line stanzas. I think there's, let's count, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Okay, so there's 16 5-line stanzas, and there isn't a specific rhyme scheme or anything, so there's no really like, specific scheme to that. But there's also plenty of like figurative devices, and I'll point out a few. This is like an onomatopoeia right here, a chew, and also she uses a simile right here and compares her dad to like a massive seal, which is as big as a Frisco seal. And then we have a little bit farther down, this I, that like that ick. She's meaning like I, talking about how she couldn't get out what she was trying to say. And that's an onomatopoeia. And then we have personification right here of her father compared to a train, which she's saying an engine chucking me off like a Jew. And a train is kind of big and bulky and commanding, and I feel like that's why she also used that comparison to her dad. And then we have another simile, and I began to talk like a Jew. She's comparing herself to a Jew and the oppression that they felt and the way that her dad made her feel. And then we have, down here, we have assonance, which is like the same like letter and like part of a word that's repeating. And right here it says, and they are dancing and stamping on you, which is another figurative device. And then over here, she's explaining like the Panzerman, black shoe, ghastly statue, and vampire. So we have Panzerman, ghastly statue, and the vampire, which is all like a metaphor comparing these like really like not sought of and like nice things to her father and all the men in her life that she feels oppressed by. So now we're moving on to the last section when it says, what does the poem say to me? Does this poem relate to me in like my life? And no, I don't have really any men in my life that oppressed me, but I can't really relate to what's going on in this poem, but I understand like what she's going through, but I have never related to it myself. But yeah, the next one is, have I ever felt this way or experienced this emotion? Like I said, none of these men in my life have ever made me feel like this. I'm very blessed to have people in my life that support me and don't make me feel oppressed. So, And does this poem add to my knowledge and awareness? I mean, yeah, it does add to my awareness of the feelings of oppression faced by many and lots of women, especially at that point in time in history, like during World War II and all of the things that were happening to the Jews, and how she felt oppressed and how she relates it to a Jew who was also oppressed by Hitler, which then she compares to her father. But it's definitely adds to my knowledge of the awarenesses of oppression and what women face every day. So